Hello and welcome to the state of Kentucky. I'm Bruce Maples, the publisher of Forward Kentucky, and we're glad to have you with us this week. We have an interesting show today. It seems like every show we have, there's one part on the coronavirus and its impact on our state, and there's another part on politics and what's going on with the election and so on and so forth. And today is like that. We have one discussion on the budget for the state and how coronavirus has had an impact on it, and it's had a significant impact. And the other part is about somebody who has started a group to get a certain candidate or a certain elected official out of office. So we're going to talk with that person later. Remember that if you comment on Facebook or YouTube, we can see your comments and we may show them in the broadcast so people can answer them. And there's something new I'd like to share. We are starting to accept advertising and sponsorships. I want to be sure you understand that this isn't multiple commercials or something like this. This is more like the NPR approach. The following show and this message are brought to you by. So if you are interested in advertising on our show, go to forwardky.com/sponsor to learn more. We are really interested in having activist groups, nonprofits, and campaigns to advertise on our show. And it's really cheap. I don't say that glibly, but I've compared some rates and our rates are pretty small. So if you're interested, go there and look. And if you have questions, you can certainly contact me about it. And I'll probably throw that back up another time just so that everybody gets the message. So let's get on with our first interview. We had to pre-record this yesterday. And so I've done this once before. We did it with Amy McGrath a few weeks ago. So I've got to jump over to the clip and get it started. So let me bring it into the stream and let me make it full screen. And then let me get it started. So we're hearing a lot of numbers about deficits and debts and bills from Congress, and all of them are big, 1 trillion, 3 trillion. We also hear numbers about Kentucky, 500 million and numbers like that. And for a lot of us, they just go right over our heads. But today we're going to be joined by somebody who knows those numbers and knows what they mean. And I'm really excited to have her on the state of Kentucky. Pam Thomas with Kentucky Center for Economic Policy. Welcome to the state of Kentucky.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's good to have you. Now, for those of you people out there who don't know what KCEP stands for and what you do, give us a little quick intro to KCEP.
KCEP stands for the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy, and we research and write about policy issues relating to the budget, taxes. We do criminal justice work. We do worker employment kind of work. We're a nonpartisan organization. We're a nonprofit. And we are in our, I believe, 10th year of existence in Kentucky.
And for those of you who want to go check out the work, it's kypolicy.org. So give that a shout. So let's get right to it. We need to set some context first, I think. Most people probably don't know much about Kentucky's budgets. They just know that we have budgets. So the state has two budgets, correct? A road fund and then a general fund, right?
The state actually has 4 budgets, but 2 primary state revenue sources, which are the road fund and the general because of the businesses in Kentucky not being open, but to the extent people are making purchases online, the fact that Kentucky did that when Kentucky did it and has the systems in place to tax it means that the downside there is not as severe as it would have been for us otherwise, but it's still bad.
Okay. Well, I guess we need to look at our senior senator and the rest of Washington and hope that they come through soon.
Well, I think that really, truly, that is the most important thing that people living in Kentucky could do right now, is to contact their congressmen and the senators in our state and let them know how important federal fiscal relief is for the state of Kentucky. Because if we don't get that, we really don't have the capacity to address what's happening to us without huge, devastating cuts.
So, money enough and long enough.
Correct.
All right. Pam Thomas with Kentucky Center for Economic Policy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
That was Pam Thomas with KCEP, Kentucky Center for Economic Policy. We really appreciate her taking the time. It turned out that she was actually off work when we recorded that, and so we really do appreciate her taking the time to talk with us. I thought it was interesting also that she talked about the fact that the last time we had a recession in 2008, that the federal government came through with some money, but it didn't last long enough to really change the impact. And so Kentucky really struggled to come out of the recession. It's also interesting that our manufacturing base is part of the reason that we have such a high unemployment rate right now. We're getting a lot of slams around the country about having how much unemployment we have, but I think it's interesting that Pam shared about the manufacturing base being the reason. Let's hope that the federal government puts a package together that doesn't just help the wealthy and big business and does something for those of us in the states. If they don't come through with something, 5% may not sound like much, but when you've got a state that has already dropped how much they spend over the years, which we could talk about later, 5% is significant. Before we go on to our next guest, I just want to remind everybody what I said earlier, that we are now accepting sponsorships. So if somebody wants to advertise or be a sponsor, go to that webpage and sign up. It's pretty cheap and pretty flexible, and we can work with you on it. As I said at the beginning of the show, we seem to have two parts to every show these days. There's the coronavirus part and the elections and politics part. And so today we're joined by a gentleman who has started a new group called the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee, which I think all of us would agree sounds like a great idea. So we're going to have Aaron Viles, and I want to be sure I'm saying that right, join us today. Aaron, welcome to the state of Kentucky.
Thank you so much for having me on, Bruce.
So first of all, just take a moment and tell us about yourself and your background in politics or in life, and who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am, I've been involved with politics and advocacy around environmental policy for a very long time. Basically, my entire career has been spent paying attention to the environment and helping to make sure that we protect it. And that does end up being political, unfortunately, a fair amount of the time. So I've done a lot of campaign work around issues like the BP drilling disaster down in the Gulf of Mexico,
right?
The Hurricane Katrina response. I spent about 2 decades in New Orleans doing that type of work, and have now been here in Lexington, where I live with my family, for a couple of years, and did a little bit of politics, some actual specific campaign work, initially with Amy McGrath and her run for Congress, and then with the Kentucky Democratic Party's coordinated campaign for Andy Beshear and the rest of that slate. So gotten involved a little bit, and coming out of the Beshear campaign, I was very excited about that result.
Sure.
Did some work, I did a little gap work with MoveOn.org on a campaign to pressure Mitch McConnell to run a fair hearing for the impeachment process, which obviously was not effective because he allowed the Senate to basically, rubber stamp, Trump's behavior. We never got to hear from Ambassador Bolton. We never got the information we needed to make a more informed decision. So, but the activists that I was working with on that Move On campaign were very excited to keep working on the issues of holding Mitch McConnell accountable. So
Okay.
even if we never, got his vote on impeachment, the idea that we were pressuring him constantly on it and educating folks about the role that he was playing and encouraging him to, hear from more and more of his constituents. We thought there was value there. And as we kind of got closer and closer to the campaign and his reelection efforts, we really wanted to keep the pressure on Mitch. And that's how we founded the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee.
So before we get to that, let me just follow up on the 2 decades in New Orleans, and now you're in Kentucky. What got you here? Are you from Kentucky, or what brought you back here?
I am not. I am actually, I grew up in the Seattle area, and I married a girl from Kentucky. And after we got married, we kind of looked at each other. We were down in New Orleans, because that's where the law school was. And so we looked at each other after law school and decided, like, all right, where are we going to go? And I said Seattle, and she said Kentucky. And 20 years later, she won. So I feel pretty proud of the fact that, I wasn't here for a while, but we like it a lot. Our family, I think, is doing really well here. And also, the politics of it were very exciting. So it was really thrilling to see, Governor Beshear, who, I thought that campaign was exciting when we were running it. We were very excited about the outcome. But now, as we are in the coronavirus crisis, every day I'm thankful for that victory.
Oh yeah, and I think pretty much the entire state, Republican and Democrat, are also thankful for that, and that he's leading. So let's talk about this group. I sort of stumbled across it as I was doing something else, and I was puzzled. We have more than one group out there right now that's working on McConnell. Everything from national groups to multiple groups in the state to various PACs. The Ditch Mitch Fund has been around for a while. Why did you want to start another group?
I guess it was mostly because we liked the folks that we were working with, and we wanted to keep on keeping on. And so we talked about what made the most sense, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for just keeping that pressure on Mitch. And looking around at the landscape, there was a whole set of folks who, didn't want to jump into a specific candidate and back a specific candidate, but very much wanted to keep an eye on Mitch and what he was up to. And I think some of those efforts that you mentioned, or that mentioned efforts that are out there, they aren't necessarily grassroots. So this was definitely something that was very much focused on, us pitching in. Initially, we were thinking we were going to do Moscow Mitch Monday. We'd be outside of his offices every week with signs. Then, of course, coronavirus, kind of nixed those plans.
Right.
We're not COVIDiots. We're not going to be out there, like some of the folks who've shown up at the state capitol. We're going to, so we're taking the campaign online, putting most of our energy there, and just, making sure that we've got a big enough platform to spread the word about what Mitch is up to. Because every week there are new insults, to our political system, to our state. He's, constantly degrading us, and he's constantly ignoring the needs of the state and advocating for his corporate buddies. So there's always new content that we feel we should be characterizing, contextualizing, and then sharing in a way that other folks can share it easily. And certainly folks who are doing that, but all the other efforts have a different focus. Ours is just that kind of education piece. We're not doing a big fundraising push. I guess we're a group, but we're trying to keep our spend limit, our spending levels pretty low, so that we aren't going to have to go through a lot of FEC IRS activity. It's really just an all volunteer effort to just share the word about what Mitch is up to.
So how are you doing that? I know you can't do, like you said, you can't do the in-person. So what are you doing, and how is it getting shared?
Yeah, so we are trying to do the in-person stuff online. So we have a Facebook Live that we do. We do Moscow Mitch Monday. We just do it on Facebook Live. So it's 7 p.m. every Monday from our Facebook page, which is very easy to find. Just Google Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee. And you can find us and like us. And, there's a group that we've got as well. So there's the Facebook page and then a Facebook group. If you want to have more of a kind of conversation about the strategy and help pitch in, ask to join the group. We'd love to have your input. And then, we'll do is, after the latest insult from Mitch McConnell, we'll try to put together a graphic that, has some of the information about what he's been up to and why it's a problem, get that shared out there. And, what we have found is that people will share that content. They want to inform their friends and family about, what Mitch is up to. And we just want to give people the tools to do it as effectively as possible. So the great thing about the live stream, though, is it gives us a chance, as you're seeing now, like you get it, like bringing guests on, bringing expertise on.
Right.
Great suite of activists that we're working with. Doug Price out of Cynthiana does a deep dive into some element of Mitch's finances every week, or his political finances.
Wow.
We did Why Is He Moscow Mitch, and went into the whole story about the aluminum effort there and what politically had to happen and why Mitch was ultimately at the fore of that effort, that clearly failed effort to bring that Russian investment here to Kentucky. And then we've also got a musician, a wonderful musician, Nate Orson, who's out of Frankfurt. He wrote the music that we use for our intro and outro for the live stream. And wow. I want to tease this. He has a Mitch McConnell song that he's just, he's finishing it. And we will be able to put that out there into the interwebs so people can hear it and share it. It's, it's informative, it's funny, and it's catchy. So that'll be coming out, which, we just want to provide a forum so that people who've got, a specific bit of information or a perspective on Mitch and a kind of a unique way of sharing it can do that, right? So you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on an advertising campaign. This is a grassroots effort. What do you got? What do you want to share? Let's share. So that's, I think, really a great part about the committee is that it brings so many cool activists together and gives them an outlet.
Do you ever worry that by being sort of tongue-in-cheek with it, I mean, like your page has, Mitch in the Russian hat and so on and so forth. Do you ever worry that being sort of tongue-in-cheek about it might actually take away from the seriousness of getting him out of there?
Yeah, I just felt like, as you pointed out earlier, there's a lot of folks who are very focused on getting rid of Mitch. Either that's because they're promoting their candidacy or they've got another campaign. And I felt like the serious stuff was out there. It was pretty well covered.
Okay.
I think it's a base strategy, right? So we want a lot of folks who know Mitch is horrible because, 35 years of him being horrible. There's a lot of folks who put that together. Give him a space to kind of have some fun, to share some information, share some inspiration as well, that he is not an unbeatable foe, even though he's been there for so long and he's so entrenched and he's got his minions everywhere in our state. There is a very active resistance to him. And the more we share that information amongst ourselves, the more empowered people are to push his garbage. And that doesn't have to be from our icon with the Russia hat on, right? It can be the power is when it's shared, right? The power is when you take it, you like it, you put it out to your networks, and that's how we can break down the kind of the siloization of our information infrastructure, right? Right. And people share it with the people that might not know how bad Mitch is. They probably know that, man, 35 years is a long time to be a senator, and why is Kentucky on the bottom of everything still? But this will give them a little bit more fodder to push back on what Mitch is saying right now, which is, of course, that he's this bipartisan, amazing, rainmaker for our state, and that's why we have to have him for another 6 years, right? His message does not, comport with his actions, and so there's a lot of inconsistencies that we can point to, and our friends and their friends can get that information maybe for the first time.
How long have you been doing this, and what kind of traction are you getting?
We've been doing it for a couple of months, and what we've seen so far is, we went from zero followers on Facebook to, 600 and something. So it's not the 6,000 we'd like. Right. That is my very direct appeal to everyone watching. Go like us. Go invite your friends to like us. well, take a look and see if you like what we're doing. But if you do, please do join up so we can spread that word and make build a bigger platform. Because again, we don't have $10 million. This is like, we don't want $10 million. We want word of mouth. We want authentic buy-in from a community that gets why Mitch is a problem and wants to educate their friends and family about that.
Well, one of the things I will say is that I'm going to go back and check your page out some more. And as you're speaking about these various memes and messages and videos and definitely the music, because I've talked to Nate before, we will share some of those on our site because we want people to know you're out there. I wish you a lot of luck. I have said before that I actually think that the McConnell election is the most important election in the country this year. I actually think it's more important than Trump because if we can get McConnell out of there, particularly if we can get McConnell out and take back the Senate, things can change.
Yeah.
And if he's still there and still controls the Senate, it doesn't really matter who we elect as president. They're not going to be able to move much with him there.
Well, I think I agree on a lot of levels. I will say that President Obama got a lot done, even despite having that brick wall in the Senate. And of course, we know that Mitch said very clearly his goal was to make President Obama a one-term president. Which how'd that work out for you, Mitch?
Right.
He is such a consistently horrible leader and was trying to stop President Obama at every step of the way. And he had some very significant victories. Obviously, Merrick Garland is one, but President Obama had some very significant victories as well. So, I think it's really important that we do everything we can for this upcoming election. I agree that this one's really important. And there's a couple of different ways we can retire Mitch. We can retire him as the leader of the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
We just retire him as a senator. And if we retire him as a senator, I guarantee you the other thing happened, right?
Right.
The only way we get rid of Mitch, unless the progressive infrastructure of Kentucky gets really, 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 really powerful, is that it's a wave, right? And that we are seeing a wave. And I think watching what's happening in the White House right now and what's happening in the Senate, and I think with Mitch's leadership, I think we very well could be looking at another wave that's even more significant than the wave we saw 2 years ago.
I hope you're right. I'm going to do all I can to make it right.
But yeah, I think one thing I do want to, I put on my shirt and I want to share it. If folks want to help out with, unelecting Mitch or retiring Mitch, this is, make sure you go get official saying yet to Moscow Mitch merchandise. It doesn't support us, but it supports Kentucky Democratic Party.
Right.
So you can find the stuff online that's not affiliated, but don't do that. Go get the real deal. Support the Kentucky Democratic Party. They are similar to us. They're not picking they can't pick a favorite in the primary, but they're all in on getting rid of Mitch. And I think that's where we should. Let's make sure everyone's ready to vote because there are more barriers to voting than there ever have been because of the coronavirus. I think that's going to happen again in November. Obviously, all the experts are saying that it's going to come back hard in the fall. So that means federal elections are really important as well. We got to make sure people know how to vote, have the resources to do it, that they're registered. But yeah, let's make sure that we retire Mitch in November.
I'm ready. Aaron Biles with the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee. Go find them on Facebook. Like the page. Support their work and share their work, which we will be doing.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, and then I did want to say, Bruce, you are hereby officially invited to one of our live streams. We've got about 25 weeks to go between here and November.
Yep.
We'll do a live stream every Monday. So look at your calendar. Let us know when you're available at 7 o'clock.
All right.
We'd love to have you on.
I will definitely do that. I enjoy that.
Great.
Aaron Biles, thank you so much. And let's get it done.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was Aaron Biles with the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee. We really appreciate him joining us today. I want to say thank you to all the people who are watching and invite your friends. And if you watch it later, it's on YouTube and Facebook later. Be sure and share it with other people. That's how we get the word out that we're here, and we'll keep doing this. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.